Hey, great to have you on board today, Petra. Thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to our chat. Petra is from Web Data Analytics, and she's absolutely an expert in all things to do with Google and web and getting the best results that you possibly can from your website. And as someone who used to run a digital marketing agency myself, all of this stuff is just like ticking so many boxes for me personally. So I know I'm going to really enjoy this chat, Petra. And I know that the people who are listening are going to be able to take away some really great stuff from it as well. So welcome.
Hi, how are you going? And thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure. I'm going really well. I would actually love it if you could start by just sharing a little bit about what your business is right now and what it is you do day to day. What is Web Data Analytics and what do you do for your clients?
Yeah, so I'd love to just start off by sharing a bit of the story of how I got here in the first place. So I was working in the defence industry and I'd been working on a cybersecurity project, actually doing automated analytics. I'd been working on other projects like missile detection systems and Air Force control systems, and I'd been doing that for about 10 years. But I was sitting in a board meeting one day and I was actually pregnant with my second child. And I was thinking, wow, I really don't want to keep coming into this all-male defence industry research out in the middle of top secret building. Now that I'm having my second child, I really want to kind of move on and start my own business. And it just suddenly occurred to me, everything that I was doing in the automated analytics for cybersecurity shouldn't be just for the defence industry. It really could be applied to normal businesses. And I thought, wow, I just had this eureka moment. I thought, wow, how can this be applied to real businesses, small businesses? Do they have any of this? And I thought there's got to be a way to make it available for just regular businesses. And so I went on a bit of a journey into looking into how the data could be used and how it could be used in a way that was going to be cost effective for small businesses as well. I spent the last 2 years just focusing on that.
Oh, that is such a cool story. I love it. From missile defence systems to massage businesses. Well, you actually work with a whole bunch of businesses, not specifically just massage. I know we do have a shared client who you've got some great results for, and that's part of the reason we got in touch because I saw the amazing results that he was getting and heard that he gave a large part of that glory to you. He's like, this is doing a great job. So do you want to share a little bit about, like, specifically, what does that automated analytics stuff, what does it actually do for a business? What are the benefits of what you do? And I want to talk generally here about how people might be able to do some of this stuff themselves even.
Yeah, definitely.
Your services, but in general, what's analytics for?
Yeah, definitely. So, so the types of clients that are using this particular service tend to be clients that are attracting clients to their website. So this is where the analytics come in, because you've got visitors that are coming to the website and then they're doing something on the website and eventually they're converting at the other end. Now, that conversions can be, in the case of a clinic, it's going to be usually someone booking through an online booking provider. So you might have your Clinico or Power Diary or whatever it is, but they're coming through the booking software and then making the booking at the end, and obviously they're paying you for that transaction. So what you want to be doing is you want to be getting traffic coming into your website and then doing what it is that they do, but eventually making that transaction. And you want to be attracting the right kinds of people to the website that are most likely to make the transaction. So the way to actually identify if you're bringing the right people to the website or not, or whether what you're doing in terms of your marketing is effective, is to actually have a look at that data, see what people are doing, see what is and isn't working, and then adjust your strategy in a way that's going to be more effective for you moving forwards.
Yeah, I absolutely love this because feedback is so important in marketing. And when we're looking at stuff like Facebook, for example, where you're reaching a whole lot of people, but it's a fairly shallow interaction, you can actually get very immediate feedback just by looking at, did people comment on my post? The goal of that is really just that basic sort of interaction. But when we come from Facebook through to a website, for a lot of people, it becomes really kind of foggy or grey. It's like, what are they doing here? And how do I tell if they're doing the right thing? How can I change the result?
Yeah.
And from what you're saying, it's like analytics is fantastic, even just plain Google Analytics, some visibility on how many people are on your site and what they're doing. But the gold, the really good thing that you're talking about is that not just looking at where they're going, but which people are actually buying your stuff, which people are booking in. And if you can use that data to then reflect backwards and go, well, these ads or these sources, Facebook's no good for me, but Instagram's gold. You know, you can kind of get a feel for where people are coming from, what they're responding to. The actual right people are the ones that book. And I think that's fantastic, because what it does mean is that feedback loop, you can start to do more of the good stuff and less of the stuff that's a waste of time, right?
Definitely. You really want to be focusing on the things that are working, because out of all the different things that you're trying to do to promote your business, inevitably it's about 20% of it that's getting 80% of the results. The Pareto principle is always in effect. So, and the reason that it can become quite confusing is Google Analytics isn't a very easy tool to navigate. A lot of people find that it's kind of like looking under the hood of a car for someone that's mechanically, not strong. I mean, personally, if I look under the hood of a car, I find it really complicated. But Google Analytics can feel like that for a lot of people. It feels like a real challenge. Maybe Facebook, they might try and make it more simplified, whereas Google Analytics, they really try and show you all of the details, and you can really get lost in it, especially if you don't know what to look at.
Yeah. And another challenge I know is that traffic, when you're just looking at the numbers, we just call that traffic, number of people coming to your site, is a really big, simple upfront number in analytics. But to actually tell who has converted, who has made a booking, Google Analytics doesn't show that by default, does it?
No, it doesn't. So there's quite a few things that aren't available by default, because they assume that you have the ability or the interest in adding that at a later point in time. And also there are some things that they just can't know. But looking at traffic by itself isn't a very good metric. So I do have an example of a client who they were actually putting a lot of budget into Facebook. They'd hired a Facebook ad agency, and they were just putting out a lot of content on Facebook. And the type of content they were putting out was, they called it like stereotypically the best kind of content for massage therapists. Now, I don't believe that there is any best content for massage therapists, because it really depends on your audience and who you are and the kind of people that are attracted to you. They're going to be attracted to different things. And but the client was really hesitant to turn off this Facebook ad campaign, because it seemed to be bringing in a lot of traffic. But then what we did was we hooked up Google Analytics with the actual, he was using Clinico. So we hooked it up with Clinico so that we could see what was leading to bookings. And then we could see plain as day, this was leading to bookings, this was not leading to bookings. Like the Facebook ads, for example, weren't leading to bookings. So we were able to kind of dig down a bit deeper and find out why. Interestingly enough, the Instagram posts that the business owner was doing himself were getting fantastic bookings, as were some of the ads that he'd put himself on Google ads, whereas the Facebook was bringing in heaps of traffic, but it wasn't actually converting. So he was able to, once I taught him how to do it, he was able to use that to completely change his marketing, and now he's getting some fantastic results.
That is,
I didn't even know about it until then.
Yeah, that's so perfect, because it's that feedback loop that's giving
that's right.
what's working, which is absolute gold and really important. And what I love too is, in this case, it's revealing that the more personal stuff is what works best.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is so true. That particular client, he'll know his clients way better than some marketing agency. And I'm all for automating. I'm all for getting help when you need it. But I also think you need to be able to learn what works for you. And then when you get an agency or a helper on, you can actually tell them. You don't get them to tell you what's going to work for your business. You tell them, you say, these are the kind of posts that work best. This is the strategy. This is how I want you to do it. And they can do all like the keyboard work. They can take all the time and make sure it's happening. But if you've got that feedback yourself, you've got your own voice, and you can get them to share that. That's the best way to go.
Definitely. Yeah. There's also a feature that's not turned on by default in Google Analytics, and it really should be. It's so easy to turn on, but there's a feature that you can set to show you the demographics and the interests and the in-market. It's called in-market interests, and also there's personal interests. And the in-market interests, for example, show you what else people are shopping for at the same time as they're coming to your website. So if you turn these features on, and it's really just one button, you just turn it on. I don't know why it's not on by default, but you can literally see the gender and the age of the people that are coming to your website from different channels or different ads, and you can see what their interests are. So if you've got if you find that people who are interested in purchasing health equipment or are interested in purchasing health supplies, they tend to be a higher in-market category. You can actually find those kind of people and specifically market towards them rather than trying to market towards everyone on the planet that might be coming to your website.
Yeah, what a fantastic way of looking at it. And what I love is beneath all of this, it's based on the actual sales. It's based on actually coming through and making bookings, because you can do similar research to that on Facebook or just by yourself with your clients. But when we're talking about based on conversions through your website, you know that data is based on the people who are actually, they're actually booking in, they're actually buying your stuff, which makes it way more valuable. I really love that.
Actually, I've got an interesting story with that as well. So when we started looking at the actual in-market opportunities that were available for a past client of mine, we actually discovered that the client's clinic was located in an area that had a lot of new apartments being built. And one of the in-market interests of the people who were purchasing massage time were people who were also purchasing apartments in that area. And so that enabled the person to have a fantastic idea of speaking to real estate agents in their suburb and offer vouchers for a free massage for people that have recently purchased, because we were able to see there was an affinity between the people who were purchasing apartments in that area and the people that were going on to purchase massages.
Yeah, isn't that great? And it's based on actual data, because that's a great idea. A lot of people might just go out there and give vouchers to local estate agents. That's a hot tip. But in this case, it's actually the data shows that there's that correlation between the two, which I love. Like, we're two data nerds. This is I'm loving this. When we start talking about targeting in that sense, I know you do a fair bit of work with the actual advertising side of Google as well, because looking at analytics, looking at the people coming in and getting a better understanding of it is absolutely great. That's a base level thing that we can do from that. But then actually going out and saying, now, how do I run my ads for those people is kind of like the next logical step. Now, with Google, a lot of our listeners are probably familiar with those little ads that come up when you search. So if someone searches for massage in and a suburb name, it's great if you've got a little ad that appears there, right? Yeah. But Google also has other advertising options. They've got like this display network and content networks and that kind of stuff. What's your kind of thinking about all that? How do you use the data to be able to help people do advertising better?
So when I look at that, what I do is I actually have a way of tracking whether people are moving their mouse or scrolling on your website, and then I use that to calculate a page engagement. So I'm not looking just at the pages that have the most page views, because that can be warped. If you have a Facebook campaign, for example, where you're sending someone to a particular page, that can count as jillions and lots and lots of page views, but those people might not be continuing through to be really engaged and reading your content. So what I do is I look at the pages that are leading to the most mouse movement and the most scrolling, and those are the ones that are really actively being read. And then if you've got social media posts for those, social media images, then I like to put those in a display campaign to bring people in to know that you exist, basically. In a display campaign, they start reading your content. Display doesn't tend to convert very well easily, because you're interrupting someone's day by putting the display ad there. But by showing your most engaging articles, those are the articles that people really want to read. And so that works great in display.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Can you just very briefly explain what a display advert is?
Yeah, sure. So
someone's not familiar with that part of Google.
Yeah, definitely. So a display ad is literally a picture ad that will be, it will be in the middle of a blog post, for example. So if you've ever been reading a blog post and then all of a sudden there's an ad that's right in the middle of it, they've deployed something called AdSense on their website. And with AdSense, they get paid if you click through an ad. And so some blogs will have a lot of them, some won't have very much, but all the ads that are displayed on there are through the display network. It gives you the ability to actually choose what kinds of pages to display your display ads on. So if someone is likely to be a good prospect for you, first of all, you need to be able to specify the geolocation of that person. Otherwise, you get a whole lot of clicks from people that aren't going to be able to take up your services. So you need to specify what location they're in, but then you also want to specify the types of websites that they're on at the time that you display an ad to them. Because if they're in the process of, I don't know, looking for supplies for their kid's birthday party, that might not be the right time for looking for a message, or maybe it would be the right time. I'm not sure. But
that's right. This big button stressing me out.
I know, it could well be. But essentially, it's about finding out what types of content are the most likely to have people come through to your website as well.
And for massage, my experience anyway, is that the display network is just not as relevant for something like massage, whereas search can still be quite very effective, actually. If someone is literally looking for a massage, then they've already got that intent to buy a massage, right? So if you pop up in front of them when they're searching and then they click through and they like the site, they're much more likely to buy. Whereas the display network is more content and it's a longer game. It's like, I'm going to get this content in front of people. They're going to read it. They're going to learn who I am. It might be more relevant if you do something very specialized, like, I don't know, marathon running stuff or oncology treatments. You might be able to get some content in that's going to raise your profile. And then it's almost like the bookings come as the second step then. They're on your page. They're reading some blog post. They love what they see. Maybe they book then, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just hear about you over a bit of time and then you've got that top of mind awareness to book in later. So it works really well. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the difference between AdWords Express and the main Google Adverts, because I know this is a comment that comes up sometimes in our support network. AdWords Express is a very simple version of Google Ads. And when you say what keywords you want your ad to appear next to, in AdWords Express, it does what's called broad matching, and it'll show your ad next to other things that Google thinks are similar to what people are searching for. So if I say I want to appear next to massage in Melbourne, sometimes it'll put me next to other words to do with massage in Melbourne. And unfortunately, when Google broad matches, sometimes it puts you next to things that you definitely do not want to appear next to, some dodgy searches and that kind of stuff. Definitely. It is a bit of a problem with AdWords Express, but AdWords Express also has some other benefits. It's easier and simpler and all that kind of stuff. Talk to me a little bit about how you deal with those kind of challenges.
I've got some pretty strong opinions on that, actually. So with clients that I've worked with that are on broad match keywords that have come out of that AdWords Express, I find that what happens is the relevance score that Google assigns to your ad tends to be really low. I think it's called actually a quality score. But essentially it tends to be really low because if you think about that word massage, for example, someone could be typing in anything with the word massage in it, and it's not necessarily relevant for them getting a massage. Like they might be just reading about massage in general, or if you are having a broad match to your suburb, anyone could be typing in anything about your suburb. And then if you are saying, well, I want to have my ad displayed every time someone types anything in with those words, what you're essentially doing is diluting your power by paying to be in front of the wrong kinds of people. It's like if you have a little sign and you're in front of a huge sea of people and you're like, hello, look at my sign, the majority of these people aren't even looking at you and your sign. Whereas if you were to walk into a room of 20 people that were really motivated, they were really looking for you, they were the right people, they were in the right it's the right time for them, they've got the money they're wanting to, and you show your sign to them and you say, hey, this is my service, there's a good chance that you're going to get a number of those 20 people, as opposed to the thousands and thousands of people that you could just be targeting generically. So AdWords Express with the broad keywords, it's very ineffective. So what I've seen is that you might be on the first page in terms of your advertising, maybe only 5% of the time. The other 95% you're on, the second or later pages. And there's a bit of a joke in the industry that says you can hide a dead body on page 2 of Google. So you definitely don't want to be spreading your funds too thin, because by the time, essentially, even though you do only pay when someone clicks on your ad, there's a lot more people that are clicking accidentally when they weren't actually intending to purchase your service. And so the conversion rates are way low when you advertise in that way. If instead you pay more money, but for the right people, and you want your clicks, you actually want your click rate to go down, but you want to spend more money on finding the right people, that's when your conversions go up. And that's when you actually start to make money on your Google ads instead of just throwing money into the wind and hoping for the best.
Yeah, I love it. And even the advertising comes back to the analytics again, doesn't it? It's like,
it does. Yeah.
Put it out there, you're going to get feedback on which keywords, which ads work the best.
Yeah.
And continue to strive. The other thing that I think is interesting around that is that it changes. You might find that one ad works really well for a couple of months, and then the conversions for that particular word or that particular wording of the ad itself starts to drop a little bit, and another one races up.
Yeah, it can do. It definitely can do. At the same time, you have to be careful, because generally a health clinic isn't a high volume industry. So you're dealing with individual people. You're not dealing with 10,000 people all at once like a retailer might. So because of that, you can think that some things are more popular now and some things are less popular and you can get the tendency to fiddle when really you haven't had enough data come through to really be sure of that decision. So you need to be a little bit careful with that. But one thing that I do want to explain, actually, that's important to go into Google Ads instead of the Express version, is that with the Express version, you can't actually input the conversions to say whether the ad has been successful or not. Again, you're only looking at traffic. So if you hooked up Clinico, for example, if you hook that up to your Google Analytics so that you could say definitively when someone had purchased, you can actually pass that data into your Google Ads, and you can make that the criteria for whether your ad has been successful or not. And if your website isn't quite at that point yet where you're getting a lot of bookings through the website, you can go a step earlier, such as someone at least starting a booking, for example, or even just getting to particular pages on your website. But as long as you've determined what it is that you're hoping that they're going to do, you want to be measuring the outcome of your advertising against that conversion rather than just the amount of traffic that it brings.
I love it. Yeah, it absolutely makes total sense. Measure the effectiveness of the advertising based on the bookings that it gets, right? And
you really should be thinking in terms of business outcomes all the time, because traffic in and of itself isn't a business outcome. A business outcome is revenue in the bank. And actual people in your clinic. And so that really should always be the important part of any analytics or advertising, or basically anything that you do online. You need to think about real business outcomes.
Yeah, I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. And I love that you're in a position where you're helping businesses to get better outcomes. Something that I wanted to ask also is one of the things that we know with any kind of advertising is that we put money into it and then we get money out. And you're talking about making sure that that's as efficient as we can, that we're getting the best return on that spend that we possibly can. Do you have a rule of thumb of where what a minimum spend should be per week or per month to start experimenting and finding out what's going to work with things like AdWords?
I actually don't have any rules in terms of a minimum spend. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone setting a minimum spend as low as they can go if they don't have much budget. It really should be based on the revenue that they're expecting to get or the revenue that they're currently getting, and then what makes sense for their business. But one thing that I really don't believe in is spending lots of money just for the sake of cutting through the noise. I heard a story last night about someone who said that they were recommended to spend $90 a day on a fledgling massage clinic because there was so much noise out there on the internet. You have to cut through the noise. And this is where I say, well, actually, you're wasting your money, because if you're thinking that spending more is going to cut through the noise, you're mistaken. The only way to cut through the noise is to target the right people. So it's not about how much. You don't want to be spending more and more and more and more and more money because there's millions of people out there on the internet and you could market to all of them and you could spend all of your money, but you won't be any richer for it. You really want to be very wary of anyone that tells you to just go out guns blazing and spend like crazy, because that's not how a good business is formed. You always have to be a bit thrifty on your marketing. You want to get a positive return on an investment. You want to make sure that your actual revenue that you receive as a result of paying for that advertising is greater than the amount that you spend on advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. The profit should be greater than you spend on advertising.
Definitely.
It's definitely something we educate a lot of our clients on as well. And, if you're running a reasonably big business, the number isn't so important. You could spend $90 a day on advertising.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
if
that's
you're
right.
getting 10 clients a day out of it, then hallelujah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, and that was just an example of a very fledgling business. But once they have multiple clinicians, for example, they're going to be needing to spend more money to get more bookings. So you're going to expect to have more bookings the more that you spend, as long as you're spending it well.
Yeah,
because
and it's about working smarter.
Yeah, that's right.
The smarter, not harder thing. It's like spend the same amount of money or less or whatever, but if we're targeting it to the right people that are actually booking in your services, then you're spending it in the best way possible to get that return, and that's the business outcome that we're looking for. Yeah.
What I actually find when it comes to working out the return on investment for marketing in terms of that initial ad spend, it makes sense to break even on the first appointment with the intention of rebooking later. So as long as you're breaking even on that very first appointment, you don't want to be spending more in your advertising than you're getting in the first appointment. But then any rebooked appointments are profit after that.
Yeah, totally. We teach that same rule of thumb. It's like people can actually literally work out the average number of times that a new client will come in. Mm-hmm. Like some people will only come in once for whatever reason, and other people will stick around forever. Yeah. And then you'll probably find that majority of your clients are somewhere in between. They might come in 3, 6, 10 times, whatever in a year. And so you do need to look at that total revenue for that client coming in when you're looking at how much advertising you spend on that. But we certainly don't want to ever go into the negative even at the start. You want to make sure that even that very first booking is at least the profit from that booking is paying for the marketing that's gone into attract them in. Yeah, I love it. It's numbers and starter. And I know there's going to be some people who are listening to this whose minds are just exploding and they're super interested in what's happening. And there's other people who are just going to be going, oh my goodness, shoot me now. This is just way too much. And I guess the whole basic point is, if you're spending money online, you want to make sure you're spending it in the right way and that it's efficient. And that's where an understanding of analytics and how that sort of feedback cycle works, that's where that can help you to be more and more efficient. Now, I know, Petra, you actually run a business doing this for people. Web Data Analytics is your company. Do you want to share, if people are interested in touching base with you and finding out more about your services, how you might actually be able to help them use analytics to get more out of their marketing spend, what's the best next step for them?
Well, I've actually got a little free tool that they can use if they're interested, and awesome. I've created a page at web-data-analytics. Sorry about all the dashes. .com. So it's not .com.au. It's .com and then /James. And what I've got on that page, it's a little freebie PDF which shows you one of the main reports that you can download out of or that you can view in Google Analytics, which shows you the traffic coming in and where it came from. And what I've done is I've put numbers next to all the different areas, and I've described for you exactly what you can get out of that particular part of the report, because otherwise it's just columns and you see this graph and you don't necessarily know what it is. So I've explained what each of the things are. What is the bounce rate? What is the source medium? And all these different terms that you might not have heard of. So that's available for download straight away.
That sounds really, really helpful for people who might have Google Analytics already or are looking to install it, and they're just opening it up going, oh my goodness, there's so much information here. Really simple sheet to be able to grab there to help. We will put the link to that in the show notes. So if anyone's listening to this, you can click through to the show notes. We've got a link there so you can go straight through. web-analytics.com/James.
I've got one other landing page that I'll give you the link to as well. And it's, again, web-data-analytics.com/Clinico. And that's specifically for business owners that are running Clinico. I've got a little bit more detail on there about how you can hook Clinico up with
fantastic.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, great. To look at that conversions metric when people are booking. Yeah, absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Petra. It's been a fascinating conversation. I love diving into how this can help. And I know that heaps of our listeners are going to be listening to this going, oh, beautiful. I've always wanted to know which parts of my marketing were working. And now I've got a way of being able to do that. It's awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
See you soon.